Hey, it's Mark with Mark's House of Cars. This is my 88.5 Lamborghini Countach, and I'm going to talk about the rear wing in this video. If it's really functional, if it's needed, if it slows down the car, if it was really put on by the factory, and we'll talk about the origins of it too, how it came about, and if it was Lamborghini that even came up with the idea to put this iconic wing on this car. Now my car is a little bit custom. It is a US car with fuel injection. It used to have the crazy US bumpers on it. I put kind of a custom black front bumper on it to pay homage a little bit to the earlier cars in the Walter Wolf car, which has a lot of influence on the current Lamborghini and how the later models like mine looked. So how did the wing first get put on the Countach? Okay, I'm going to go through an article here from the autopian.com. The original Countach was Lamborghini's greatest design. Here's how it was ruined. Now, I don't agree with that statement. I actually like the later model cars better, but everyone's open to their own opinion, and I can see why some people like the original ones better. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. We all know most of us know Lamborghini started building tractors, moved on to cars when he got mad at Ferrari because he didn't like their clutches, and they got into a little tiff about it. What's crazy is how quickly he built cars. I believe it's like in the first year of starting his company, he already was producing Lamborghinis. And the Mira was produced only a few years after Lamborghini started, which is considered the first real supercar, one of the most beautiful cars ever built. Amazing vehicles, at least to look at, and I've heard they can be a little bit crazy to drive and can be a little bit finicky. But what do you expect for a car that was built in the first couple of years of a company's production back in the 70s? This is just kind of showing the origin of the design of the Countach, and then we get, here is the prototype. So you can see it is so much different than what we have today. The basic lines are kind of here, but it's a little different. That angle isn't quite as harsh. You can see the window was a little different. Now it goes all the way across and a little bit flatter here, not quite as extreme with the angles. But there was no wing. I don't think Lamborghini ever intended to have a wing on it. You can see there's no wheel arches. These are much skinnier tires, and it doesn't have the ducts and all the vents and crazy stuff going on either. And that's why some people like this design the most, because it was pure, smooth, not as crazy. And some people like the crazy. The interior was crazy with like a padded steering wheel and crazy warning system. God, that seems like it would be hard to see what's going on. We didn't get that interior. But here's what the Lamborghini first looked like as a periscopio version, and they say that because there's actually an indent on the roof where your rear view mirror looks outside above your roof. And what's crazy, if you read this article, we go back up here, there's no mirrors on this car. The first prototype only had a rear view mirror, kind of periscope mirror, no side mirrors. It's so hard to see out of this car, and I'll do another video on that here. Eventually, I want to do a lot of videos about the different factors or features and interesting facts on this car. I've done a lot of shorts, but not longer, more in-depth videos. But man, it would be so hard to drive the car without side mirrors. That's crazy. So you can see they have side mirrors. This is the 1974 to 1977 version, the most valuable Countach. They made very few of them. You can see the tires are much skinnier. And part of that, we believe, is because Lamborghini wanted to actually put wider tires on it, but they're waiting for Pirelli to produce them. They produced the widest tires, I believe, at that time ever to be put on production car, but they had to wait for them to be manufactured and built. You can also see they added big vents. That was to prevent overheating. The original prototype had a 5-liter V12 that overheated constantly, and that's why they started with a 4-liter V12 in this car, because it wouldn't overheat. And a lot of people think these cars overheat all the time, and I think that rumor comes from the prototype, not the actual production car. I haven't heard from anybody who actually owns one who complains about an overheating issue, and they added all these ducts and air vents to try and help that as well, which hurt aerodynamics, might have hurt the lines a little bit. And honestly, it looks kind of weird on this car because the rest of it is real smooth, but then it's got this vent just kind of sticking out. Whereas the later models have the wings and everything else, it kind of makes that fit better, at least in my opinion. So no wings on these cars, you can see that. And then eventually as they go through their designs, we get to this, the Walter Wolf Countach, and that is a story in itself. And we're going to go over here and talk about the first Lamborghini Countach to sprout a wing, the Walter Wolf Countach. So he built two of these. He was a F1 team owner, massive car guy. He loved Lamborghini, and so he had a Lamborghini customized for him. So this was a Periscopio, and he put on the wing, he put on the big wheel arches, he had the big tires put on, the front kind of lower spoiler here. So it wasn't really even Lamborghini who came up with the iconic look we have. Well, not today. Well, most of them today, but from the 80s that we all think of the Countach as looking as. It was Walter Wolf. And after he did this, Lamborghini saw that and was like, oh, let's do that. And so, and this car is still in that condition in Japan, which is really cool. But so that's where we got this iconic look. Now, if you can see there, that's a different wing than mine, though. That one, I think, was actually adjustable, probably more functional than what I've got on mine. And you can also see here's the black bumper, and yes, he's got some writing on it and different stuff like I put on my window for my business, so you can't get too mad at me for doing that if I'm paying homage to one of the coolest cars ever built, which was a customized Lamborghini that Lamborghini then copied to make one of the coolest cars ever. So in 1978, I believe, and if I'm wrong in these facts, please correct me because I'm not perfect on all this, Lamborghini started offering this wing as an option. Now, I've heard it costs $5,000 as an option. I've tried to look around. I haven't found a whole lot of information on that. And a lot of people say, well, Lamborghini never offered the wing. It was only dealers. And what they did is Lamborghini did offer the wing. You could buy it from the factory. It just wasn't installed in the factory. They had all their workstations, their flow of how the car was built, and the wing was kind of an afterthought. So they would rivet it on or screw it on in the parking lot at the Lamborghini factory. And then I think the car was put back in the factory for the other, finishing touches and paint and all of that. But it was installed there. It was painted there, obviously. It just was done in the parking lot for the actual install instead of in the factory itself. And I think that's where that rumor started, that Lamborghini never offered the wing. So while that rumor is not really true, a lot of the other rumors about the wing are true. It does hurt performance. So when they put that wing on the car, the Countach does not have a rear lift issue. It actually has a front lift issue. So did the Mira. And so if you put a wing on the back of the car to create more downforce in the back, it actually made that problem worse, and the front end lifted even more at high speed. You don't want your front end lifting at high speed because then you can't steer, and you don't really want to, well, it looks like a rocket ship. You really don't want to take off in the air like a rocket ship when you're driving a car at high speed. So what Lamborghini did is they zeroed out the angle. So it has zero downforce, zero impact on the stability of the car, unless you think it's more stable because it won't go as fast, because it does reduce this top speed by about 10 miles per hour because it has so much drag on it. So yes, it is purely for looks. It does hurt performance, and if you really want to go fast in a Countach and test the top speed, you do not want that wing on there. You also want to tape over all the vents and take off the wiper and really fix its aerodynamics, because this car was not super aerodynamic. It looks like it should just cut through the air with its wedge shape, but despite what logically we think is aerodynamic, that is not an aerodynamic shape. You want more curves and more engineered design, which is beyond my expertise. I just know this car does not have good aerodynamics, and if it would have had good aerodynamics, it probably would have had a much higher top speed than 170-ish, maybe 180, 185 when they take off all the wiper, the wing, tape up all the vents, and try and really push it. So it's got 420 horsepower in its current US version. It's got a lot of power. It's an awesome car to drive, a super fun car to drive. But yes, the wing is purely for aesthetics. does not help performance. It is not needed to drive at high speeds, and I have not driven my Countach, you know, super duper fast. I've gotten up there a little bit, but I know other people, I've seen other videos where people take them up to 150, 160, and the consensus is the faster this car goes, the stabler it gets. So it is a good car at high speed from what I've read. Now the concern, of course, is do you want to drive a 40-year-old, 50-year-old car that fast and trust that all the mechanics are in really good shape and won't break on you and cause any issues there? Because, again, this is an old car. There's no airbags. You know, there's not the safety items that the modern cars, even supercars, have. So if you do crash at that speed, it probably will not be a good result. Another question I see is, can you take the wing off? And the answer is no. It would leave holes in the deck lid. It's not easy. There's rivets, so it's not like you can just unscrew it or unbolt it. So you can't just easily take the wing off. Now, what many owners do is they'll actually buy a second trunk lid, and because it is a little baby trunk under that wing, and they'll have one trunk lid with the wing, one without it, if they want to switch between the winged look or non-winged look. And I would love to do that at some point too. I have a lot of different projects and different things I'd like to do with my cars though, and that's kind of far down on the list. And it's not easy to just find a trunk lid for a Countach on eBay or anything like that. Maybe I should set up a search for that if one pops up. I mentioned I want to do more videos in the future on different good and bad aspects of this car. One of those is visibility. And so the wing, a lot of people say the wing makes the visibility worse. It actually doesn't, in my opinion. You're looking below it. So you actually, when you look through the rear view mirror, the window, you're actually looking below the wing. So it doesn't really hurt it that much because it's already so awful. So that is one thing the Countach has, is awful rear visibility. We'll do a full video on that coming up, and some other ones, getting in and out of it, how big you can be, all kinds of cool stuff, the tires. But it is an iconic car. I love it. It's my favorite car to drive. But yes, it does have some quirks. It does have some interesting features. And I think a lot of those things is what makes it so iconic and so awesome, because you could never do those things today.